This is not a big collection.
Hello everyone, it is week 3 on research, and I'm going to do things a little bit differently. Namely, I'm not going to tell you what research article I'm talking about until the end. A little bit of information about this research article. It was published about 20 years ago in a different country. Why I am having fun with picking articles from a different country, I don't fully know, but it's kind of fun. Yes, 20 years ago. So this is going to be kind of interesting, kind of fun. Let's get going. Unlike last time when I showed excerpts of the paper, I'm going to be a little sneaky and do copy and paste. There's a reason for this, which will make sense afterwards. I will still have the same standards. I want to know who's in it, tell me all the information, and can I do the same study by myself? Time for our mystery paper. This paper was published in 1998. This paper was considered an early report, basically meaning they haven't crossed their T's, dotted their I's yet. They still need to make sure everything is in check. But it's an early report. This is what they're currently finding. This is red flag number 1. At first glance at this paper, I thought there were 13 authors. When I've read other papers in regards to this one, they have stated 12 authors. Either way, there's a lot of authors, which is generally a good thing. Warning flag number 2. This is a paper about a hot topic at the time. Background. This is a direct quote from the research article itself. We investigated a consecutive series of children with chronic enterocolitis and regressive developmental disorder. I personally put the asterisks there because I needed to look that up. Dictionary.com says, inflammation of the small intestines and the colon. Red flag number 3. How are they going to separate those with the inflammation of the small intestine and the colon and those with regressive developmental disorder? By the way, regressive developmental disorder just basically means it seems like they're going backwards in development. Patients and methods. 12 children consecutively referred to the Department of Pediatrics, Gastroenterology, with a history of pervasive developmental disorder with loss of acquired skills and intestinal symptoms, i.e. diarrhea, abdominal pains, bloating, and food intolerance, were investigated. All children were admitted to the ward for 1 week, accompanied by their parents. So right here, we know that this is right around the level of a case study, maybe an observational, no control. They're looking at gut problems. Why are they only picking pervasive developmental disorders? To me, this is red flag number 4. Ethics and funding. This is a good one. Again, taken from the article itself. Investigations were approved by the Ethics Practice Committee of the Royal Free Hospital NHS Trust, and parents gave informed consent. No funding is disclosed. That usually is a problem. That is red flag number 6. Results. Now these are the results. There's a lot to be read in here. But what's interesting is they wanted to know about the gut problems for all these kids. What these results do mention is 2/3 of the kids had vaccines. Like seriously, 8 out of the 12 children had vaccines. 1 had something else, 2 had another thing. Wait, what did we just read? This paper did not specify how they separated children with the chronic gut problems and regressive developmental disorder. And not one child, not one of them, was considered neurotypical. They only picked children with regressive developmental disorders. This is none other than the Lancet paper that's actually written by, I will not mention his name. You can look this article up by typing in retracted Lancet paper. See this? Retracted. So reading this article is just flat out a trip to read because it doesn't make sense. They set off to look for one thing, they discovered another thing, and somehow it connected. It doesn't connect. For those that do not know the history of this paper, here it is in a nutshell. Several people put their names on this document, and shortly after publishing it, several of those names came out and said they did not agree with the findings that were printed. The main author stuck to his guns, for lack of better terms, and said the finding was the finding, even though more than half of the authors disagreed with him. What was the disputed finding that authors did not agree upon? This is basically the paper that started the whole conspiracy theory of the link between vaccines and autism. I want to make it very clear right now, they do not. And we'll get into why in just a few moments. There's a lot of failures within this paper. Some of it was discovered when it was published, and some was discovered years later. Participants were cherry-picked, meaning they saw who they can pick and they picked the people they wanted. Usually this can be okay, such as you want to do research studies about people with this diagnosis, or you want to do a research paper about people with no teeth. But to cherry pick participants and say this is why they got this diagnosis without a control, that's kind of wrong. Not only that, but their original research question was kind of lost. Do you remember the research question? It had to do with intestines. Yeah, where did that fall in this whole thing? Seriously, gut problems? I don't know anyone that hasn't had one gut problem, even in childhood. Oh, let's not forget they forgot to disclose where they got their money. Majority of researchers love what they do. They would love to do research all the time, but they need to eat. This paper was later discovered to be funded by, and I quote the NCBI, lawyers who had been engaged by parents in lawsuits against vaccine-producing companies, by people that wanted to discredit vaccine companies. And then all of a sudden you have this remarkable research paper that says vaccines are bad? Really? Ugh. Remember GameStop and people shorting it in the stock market? Well, welcome to the GameStop of the academic and medical world. I really hope I got that reference correct. Seriously, there is so much wrong with this paper that it's kind of bonkers that it happened. Before any vaccine goes public, and for this case, we're going with the MMR vaccine, it has to go through so many trials. So much data has to be gathered, so much research and time and craziness has to happen. Not only that, but it has to be tested and retested, and all data has to be compared, and it has to be replicated, meaning one person has to do the research and then needs to be tested again by someone completely different, and tested again by someone completely different. It needs to go through this process so much. Just so we're all clear, the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccines individually all came out in the 1960s. The combined MMR vaccine came out in 1971. So are you trying to tell me that a vaccine that has been tested, tried, tested again, tried, data-driven, a lot of people took this vaccine? I mean, over a generation of people have taken this vaccine. And now you find out that children with autism and gut problems? Do you know what two things happen in early childhood vaccines, and diagnosis for autism. Do you know what else happens in early childhood? Eating dirt. You might want to check that dirt. So why did this paper skyrocket? Why did this paper basically lead to a mass hysteria and conspiracy theories leading parents not getting their children vaccinated? I think it was said best in the Canadian Medical Association Journal when they said, "We know that autism has a genetic cause and that there are environmental factors we don't understand yet. There's enormous pressure in the field to come up with those answers." They were quoting Sepulveda right there. I don't know who Sepulveda is. Fortunately, this paper was retracted. Unfortunately, they retracted it a little too late. Like 12 years too late. Retracted meaning it was taken out and said it was no longer research, or academic for that matter, or true. 1998, 2010. Yes, research changes. Research keeps changing. Thankfully, we do not have to know every little bit of research. But when we want to know more about a research topic, or topics in general, we need to start thinking with a critical mind going, is there anything that these people mention that's a bit iffy? What are they telling me? What are they not telling me? I hope everybody enjoyed this little trip we went on. Next week will be our last week for research. I have an idea for May, but if there's something you want me to go over, please leave a comment down below. Till next time, remember to be kind. Bye. Yes, 20 years ago. Are you okay? How are they going to separate those with enterocolitis? Now these are the... Several people put their names on this paper. I mean, several. I think it's 12 or 13. Are you okay? Yeah, okay. Oh. Let me change that time because that is not correct. Okay, timestamps are awesome.